unfortunately, just about everyone these days, like over 300 million people in the world have anxiety now, which is an unbelievable number. That's just adults, and over 40 million only in the US alone. So that's a lot.
If you're a single mom or a divorced woman, you have likely experienced trauma, stress, and anxiety, which is why I'm so excited to bring to you our guest for this week. Her name is Dr. Lori Davis. She is an instructor of psychology in psychiatry, and she specializes in anxiety disorder and trauma. You do not want to miss this episode. Dr. Lori gives us so much information on how to navigate our challenging life transitions like divorce. I'd like for you to just let our audience know, like, a little bit of your background and how you got to doing what you're doing today, and the specialty also.
Sure, absolutely. So, first off, I've been anxious for my whole life, and I became a clinical psychologist as a second career. I had another career in media, but wanted to go back to do what I was always meant to do. So, that's sort of my mantra. It's never too late to be what you might have been. And so, I'm like living and breathing that. Maybe you are too. I don't know. Or people who are listening. So I went back and I got my doctorate in psychology, which was a big haul, a lot of work. Wasn't sure I could do it, but I did it. And so now I have a private practice in Manhattan, and I have a general practice, but I specialize in anxiety disorders, which is unfortunately just about everyone these days. Like over 300 million people in the world have anxiety now, which is an unbelievable number. That's just adults, and over 40 million only in the US alone. So that's a lot. So I specialize in anxiety, and then I also did clinical research in the area of trauma, early abuse, domestic violence. I ran a 9/11 program in New York City. So all of the horrible things that can happen to people, but fortunately, there's a lot of treatment and research available in these areas. So that was sort of my career trajectory. And then about a year and a half ago, I was on Instagram and I thought, well, wouldn't that be great if I could talk about anxiety? Except I was too anxious to talk about anxiety, so I didn't. And then I kept percolating, as we do, about things that we're contemplating. And then one day I just hit the record button and I watched it back and I was freaking out. I was like, this is so bad. I looked like a deer caught in headlights. It was so bad. So anyway, the idea was that so many people are anxious, and anxiety comes to us all at different times of life, often life transitions, including divorce and motherhood and so forth. And I wanted to let people know that while I have the training, I also experience it too. I know what it's like to panic. I know what it's like to be overwhelmed, where I can't concentrate or my heart's racing, or I just want to hide for a while. So I totally get it. And I wanted to merge the two things and kind of, spread some knowledge about anxiety and tips and strategies and inspiration too. Like you can do this. So that's kind of how I got on Instagram at Dr. Lori Davis, and it's been growing. And I used to get really nervous on podcasts, and now I'm getting more comfortable. And I'm just trying to be myself and let people know you can only be who you are. We all have our challenges. We all get overwhelmed at times. So anyway, I'm happy to be here to talk about divorce and the impact on people's lives, particularly stress and anxiety, and also on their kids and other family members and so forth.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lori, for that wonderful recap of just, I'm sure there's a lot that you've gone through, especially, transitioning yourself, having, being an anxious person. I cannot even
Yes.
imagine what that's like. So I applaud you for your courage and your bravery in doing so many different things, also having this anxiety, because I have only experienced that during certain times of my life. I can't imagine living with it on a regular basis. So, my heart goes out to everyone that has that, and you. And so today's conversation I've been looking forward to, because especially with my audience of what they've gone through. And it's just so key to understand, like, just, our body, our mental
Yes.
state, with, such a traumatic transition in life. And even when you can see your divorce coming, like it hasn't been working out for years, there is still so much trauma that is associated with that and the unraveling. And we also have, for me, I'm the number one thing I can do right in this life is to be the best mom. So I have a very soft spot when it comes to motherhood, single moms. I'm a single mom myself. I've been a single mom for a decade now. So I'd like to just, explore the challenges that, like divorced women and single moms face when they're dealing with like anxiety. And if you can give us some practical tools
Sure.
for, them to navigate.
Yes, I can. I can definitely do that. First of all, it's really important to note that anxiety often does kick up during life transitions, whether it's divorce or marriage or having a kid or moving or starting a new job or loss of a loved one. There are so many life transitions that we experience. Yes, of course, there are people who sort of experience anxiety through their whole lives and have to manage that. But divorce in particular is a challenge in so many ways, as you know. I mean, I've been following you and reading about the advice that you give to women. And so there's the change of it all, feeling very dislocated, very disoriented. You're married, then you're not, adjusting to being a single person. And then there's the additional responsibilities you likely have, taking care, if you have kids, taking care of your kids as one person. So there's juggling the schedule, which is like going to cause you intense anxiety. And then, maybe you're maneuvering career issues at the same time. Maybe eventually you're dating. Maybe you need to move to a new home. So there's so much that you're juggling. Maybe you're also taking care of parents who are getting older and need your help, or and so you're attending to that. So it's basically a juggling act, and so it kicks up anxiety, and then we experience it in body and mind. A lot of people report all of a sudden they start getting heart palpitations, where they can't concentrate, they just feel overwhelmed. A lot of times women report, and men, that they all of a sudden are anxious driving or on
Yeah.
public transportation, like they don't feel comfortable getting on the highways. So anxiety finds its pockets. Some people don't feel comfortable, like in a movie theater anymore, being like wedged in
Mhm.
crowds. So it can manifest itself in so many different ways. The most important thing to know about anxiety at this time is normalize it. Always normalize it. You going through a life transition, divorce is very painful. Even if you wanted out, of the marriage, it's still a huge change. And there's a lot of baggage, there's a lot of unprocessed anger and fears and so forth. But you're going through a big change. So normalize that you have these symptoms instead of, why is this happening to me? I don't
Mhm.
understand. I never got anxious before. What's wrong with me? I should be doing better than this. That's a lot of negative self-talk. And that does not help lower anxiety symptoms. All it brings in is frustration toward the self and self-criticism. So try to be kind to yourself. It's a very difficult time. Be as compassionate toward yourself as you would toward a friend or a sibling or someone you work with. So I think that's really important. I think that everyone has to figure out their best strategies for dealing with stress and anxiety. When you're going through a divorce, look, you could get lucky. It's a simple filing, but often there's court, there's
Mhm.
arguing, there's worry about money, worries about your kids, schools. I mean, there's so much in it. So it's hard not to be anxious about it, but you need to stick to your structure. Structure is hugely important when you go through periods of anxiety. It's like, don't forget about your exercise. If you don't have time for it, which you may not, make sure you just I'll do push-ups for 2 minutes, and that just helps to like reset everything. Or go for a quick walk. Like, do things that are going to make you feel calmer. I have a heating pad. Like, I take my heating pad wherever I go. If I'm really anxious, I plug it in, and 10 minutes with the heating pad actually takes my anxiety down. Like, I figured these things out along the way, and everyone should try and figure out what works for them. There's a lot of, well, I read this book on divorce and stress, and I tried everything and it didn't work for me. And I think you wrote about this too. Like, some people go to therapy and it's not it for them. Like, obviously therapy has helped me a lot. I'm also a therapist, but one size doesn't fit all. If you want to get into spirituality or get into religion or sit on top of a mountain or work out a lot or set physical goals, you want to chat with friends, you want to write, journal, like whatever works for you is okay. Try things out and see what your anxiety plan is. Like other things that work are I have like therapy dough. It's like Play-Doh, but it smells like a spa. So it's
Whoa.
great. Yeah, I'll give you a link, and it smells like eucalyptus and or lavender, and you just sort of like when you're feeling anxious, you just kind of roll it in your hands and you just squeeze it, and it's a very tactile thing. It's very soothing. It's good if you're feeling anxious and fidgety. Like let's say you're sitting in court and you're like you don't know what to do with your hands or whatever. Like I
Mhm.
just or you're on a Zoom call. I just have the dough like underneath the desk, and I use that. Self compassion though is one of the most important things. You didn't choose to be anxious. You didn't, maybe you knew you were going to get a divorce. Maybe you didn't know. Maybe you're shocked that you ended up being a single mom. But this is what happens. Life happens. And we can't plan for everything. And anxiety is all about, Cheryl, it's all about not knowing and what's going to happen next. That's what anxiety is. And you can't have all the answers. None of us can. So we get taken by surprise.
I love that you just explained in a quick nutshell what anxiety is. Could you repeat that I
Yes.
think that's super important, Dr. Lori, for people that do not know what they're feeling. That is so important. Please
Yes.
repeat that.
Yes. It's very simple, but it's complicated, of course. Anxiety is not knowing. Whenever we don't know something, whenever we can't be in control of that knowing, we get thrown off. What's going to happen next? What if this happened? That already happened. Maybe something else bad will happen. And so we get in these thought loops. And then we start to have this physical sensation of, I feel tightness in my chest. I can't breathe. My stomach hurts. I'm getting headaches now. I'm not sleeping well. So then the physical stuff, then plagues us. It's really just about like not knowing and trying to be in control when we can't in life always be in control. That's really what anxiety is, and we feel it physically, and it clouds our concentration and so forth. And I think that one key piece is knowing when it's too much for yourself, you know, and being honest with yourself. Like, it's okay, I'm feeling this way, and maybe it's time for me to reach out and get some help, whatever that help is.
Right.
Trying to, as a single mom, as a divorced person, I have to handle everything myself, right? I'm an independent person, right? I chin up, just kind of plow through it, but then you hit a wall and you get stressed out or you're tired all the time, right? You're just exhausted. And it's okay to give yourself permission to say, I need some assistance, and it doesn't make me a bad person, and it doesn't make me less smart. It doesn't make me less competent. It just means I'm going through a really hard time, and maybe there's someone out there, whoever it is, or people who can help me out. Even a support group, or is really helpful. So that's another piece. People get very prideful.
Yes, and that's such great advice because a majority of my clients, they're high performing women.
Yes.
So, like myself, I thought, well, you know what? I know how to build. I will rebuild again. I'm gonna 1, 2, 3 this whole thing, and
Boom.
then
Yeah.
oh, yep, that's it. I'm just, hey, I got cheated on. I don't deserve that. My children
Yeah.
do not deserve that. Okay, bye. I'm going to do, like I said, I thought it was like clockwork 1, 2, 3 paperwork. But then the surge of the feelings came a month later. And my
Yeah.
friends actually, yeah, they were looking at me during this time when I was so confident and I purged everything. I threw away everything, sold my ring right away, bought a bicycle. So, I can, hey, and they're like, are you a freaking alien? Like, you're not feeling anything? Well, a month later, that's when it hit me. Like, just the unraveling of the feelings. And then that's the first time in my life I've ever felt depressed. And I didn't even
Yeah.
know what that was.
Yeah.
I've never felt that, Dr. Lori.
But
The
you're
only,
lucky, Cheryl, you're lucky. So far, you haven't had a lot of anxiety or depression, so you're way ahead of the game. But you're like a ninja. I can hear that. You're like, attack the problem, figure it out, move forward. But the problem with that is with huge life stressors, you'll sometimes just hit a wall. No matter what you do, no matter how brave and mighty you are, you hit the wall. Then you're saying you went into the crash mode. You feel the feelings and then you crash. That's what I call
oh,
it. Crash
Oh,
mode.
I crashed and burned for
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
heavily. So
So
yes,
hard. Yeah.
it's so hard, and I'm so happy that you're shedding light and acceptance that this is nothing to be ashamed of, because even back when I first when I discovered that my husband was having an affair, which was 10 years ago, none of
Sorry.
this was even, oh, that's okay. It's as painful as it was to go through that. My gosh, it's been one of my biggest blessings. I cannot even imagine what life would have been like if I had stayed, oh my goodness, and my children too. So
Yeah.
it's been wonderful. It hasn't been an easy journey, and so that's why we're here doing the podcast. And I'm so blessed to have been able to connect with you on Instagram. So thank you for putting yourself out there. I know
Well,
that
you
that's
too. You too.
oh
That's
my
how we
gosh, I
connected.
was
We
so
we
sick,
both we both put
both of
ourselves out.
us. I just want to jump in here real quick to talk about something super near and dear to my heart. When I was going through my divorce, I didn't just feel alone. I spent so much time, money, and I made a ton of mistakes just to try to figure out how I was going to heal and move my life forward. Even with my amazing family and friends, I just couldn't find anyone who truly understood what I was going through as a single mom, as a highly ambitious, driven, and focused divorced woman. If you're feeling this way too, I totally get it, which is exactly why I created the Phoenix Rising Divorce Community. This is an exclusive private online community that is away from social media and is specifically designed for high-performing divorced women who want to connect, to heal, to grow together, all while having the tools and resources to truly take their power back once and for all. If you're ready to stop wasting time, money, resources, and you're tired of doing it alone, and you're finally ready to move your life forward and heal once and for all, this is the community for you. Check the description for all the information. Thank you. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, both of us. And so I just wanted to kind of, take a little time to ask you, like, how can they recognize anxiety, not just in themselves, but also like in their children?
Yes,
Because,
that's a big topic people ask me about a lot, and it's very painful to see your kids suffering. Obviously, that's sort of an understatement, but so I think so. We'll start with kids, I guess, since you're asking about both. Listen to your kids. If they say they're not feeling well or they're feeling off, they say, "Mom, something's not right." Sit down and be all ears. And I always tell parents, like, don't pepper your kid with a million questions, because then they get overloaded, or they're like leave me alone, like back off. It's too much. Just say, look, I heard what you said. You're not feeling like yourself. Something feels off. Just tell me more about it. What do you mean by that? And just listen and then reflect back. So I hear that you're telling me that this and this is happening at school, or when you're trying to get your homework done, you're just staring at the wall, you're not getting it done, or you don't want to hang out with your friends anymore. So listen and gather information. And then just ask the question, like, let's keep the dialogue open. Like, let's touch base about this again. I want to hear more. And if you feel like it's consistent, again, so key signals: your child isn't sleeping, they don't have much of an appetite. This is sort of anxiety and depression. And by the way, anxiety and depression almost always go hand in hand, because when people get really anxious, then they get down about it. Why am I so anxious? I don't feel like myself. And then when people get down and depressed, they start worrying about it. When am I going to feel better? What's wrong with me? How do I snap out of it? So often they're together. Kids also. So kids can report things like headaches, stomach aches, oversleeping or not sleeping enough. Again, social isolation. They don't want to hang out with their friends anymore. They're just quieter. They're not laughing. You don't see them smiling. Note those symptoms and don't look away. They're real symptoms. And if you see it persisting, if it's a pattern and you see it for a couple of months or many weeks, I think you can think about, what do I need to do now? Should I reach out, talk to someone at school? Sometimes there are wonderful, like, guidance counselors at school. Sometimes there aren't. or reach out within the community to get the name of a therapist. Now, kids are not always thrilled about going to therapy, and some of them are. Again, everything's variable. Everybody's different. So, but letting your kids know, like, help is out there, and I understand why you're feeling that way. I'm not you, and I can't get inside your head. I think it's great that now Inside Out 2 just came out, the movie.
Oh,
So which is a
yes.
lot about it. This segment is about anxiety, so I think that's sort of a good thing to maybe see with kids and stuff. But just pay attention. As an attuned parent, you probably are paying attention. But some parents will say, "Oh, this will just go away. This is just a
Mhm.
phase." If it continues, take it seriously, and you can reach out to the schools for referrals, or local universities can can connect you with therapists. You'll see a change in your kid, and talk to them about it. Let them know it's okay with you. Some parents, unfortunately, can say, just snap out of it. Your life's great.
Right.
Or, like, what's wrong with you? Like, I don't get it. Why don't you smile? Or why are you being so quiet? Versus, I'm here for you. I see you not feeling well. And I'm observing this. And I love you. And I love you no matter what. And no matter how you are. So that's really important to do. And, parents do the best they can. They're busy with their own things, and so kids can fall through the cracks that way.
Yeah,
Because people are so busy.
it's unfortunate and sad, but I can just going through my own experiences and hearing my clients, it's like they can't even see straight because of all the
Yes,
things that's going on. But
yes,
really, I mean, please, I'm begging you guys to really pay attention to your children because
yes. Pay
they're so
attention.
helpless.
Yeah, we're not robots. We miss things. But do your best to keep your eyes open. In terms of adults, same thing. If you're not feeling like yourself, meaning you can't do the things you need to do every day. That includes getting your work done. It could include taking care of your home. It could include doing the things, running errands and things you need to do for your kids. And that persists. Likely, you could use some assistance at that point. And again, you can get into denial mode. Oh, it's fine. It's nothing. Usually, the friends will say, "What's going on with you?" Like you said, "What's happening with you? You have lunch, or you go to like a parenting event, and like you don't seem like yourself. You're not laughing
Mm.
anymore. You're not your bubbly self." And they, "Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I'll be fine." And the denial doesn't really help because it's going to just stay. Like, these symptoms are going to stay. So you can read books. Again, therapy isn't always the answer. You can learn yourself. Dr. Google is not your friend, though, because people come to me. I Google blah blah these 5,000 things, and they don't know what's even true anymore. And I'm like, there's a lot of good. There are a lot of good resources online, and social media too can provide basic information, but that's not the be all and end all. So, don't Google everything for yourself and for your kids. Get some basic information, and then make sure you go into reputable sources like major universities, major, national or worldwide organizations, because there's a lot of misinformation about things. But, kind of learn as much as you can. So, the telltale signs are you're not doing things the way you used to. You're not feeling the way you used to, and it begins to impact your functioning.
Absolutely. And I love that you touched on the fact that Dr. Google is not, the end
Yeah.
all be all, because I can see, and even for myself, when my son was going through cancer, I think you knew that.
Yes, I do.
My,
Yeah.
my son was going through cancer. I thought I was, the nurse practitioner, and I'm gonna Google the symptoms, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just made it worse for myself. Obviously, all the different things. So that's just another like golden piece of advice, because you could drive yourself absolutely insane and actually exacerbate the situation. You weren't even feeling a certain way, and you read
Exactly.
something, oh my god, that's me. No, and you've just compounded all of the crap that's already happening, as opposed to
Yes.
really being very discerning, because discernment is so key at this moment in time. And Dr. Lori, what about like the single moms and the divorced women who are just super overwhelmed by anxiety? Like, what advice do you have as far as building like resilience and confidence so that they can just go about their day?
I think, when I've worked clinically with single moms or divorced moms, there is this feeling of I'm alone in this, which kind of fuels all kinds of core beliefs like, why am I alone? What's wrong with me? You get into sort of this mindset about where you're at, like there's no one there to help me. See, look what happened. I'm all by myself trying to juggle all this. And then, feelings that go along with that feeling of aloneness, like helplessness at times, and feeling like you've just got to be, again, a robot, just to, a person who's, the Energizer Bunny, go, 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 go. And then you just find yourself exhausted. And some people cry a lot, which I think is a good coping strategy to cry. Like, I'm not a good crier. I wish I were, but I'm not. I think what I would say to them is make sure you have decent social support. I know that sounds very basic, but negative social support is actually it's really bad for you. The name negative social support, like, don't go to people who are going to deny your reality. Like, we all have friends we go to for advice. Maybe we have friends for fun. Make sure you're discussing these private things and your feelings with trusted people in your life, because people can kind of invalidate things that you are feeling. But the goal is not to feel as alone, is to build, like you're doing, build a community around you or be a part of a community. And again, it could be by following your page. It could be a support group in your neighborhood where you can go and connect and maybe have dinners or just sit and talk with people who are experiencing similar things. So not to feel so alone in it, because you're not alone in it. There is so many. You probably know the stats more than I do, but more than 50% of people are divorced. So there are a lot of divorced women and there are a lot of single moms floating around in the universe. So it's sort of like, come together, bridge that loneliness, because there's power and comfort in being part of a group. So as much as you can, try to get connected. And I could say the same thing for anxiety. Like, even having this Instagram thing, I'm connecting with people all over the world who have anxiety, and it's made me feel like more comforted, and it's normalized some of the things that I experience. So don't go to negative social support. No matter how busy you are, you have to find even a few minutes for yourself. As a single mom, as a divorced mom, even if it means staring at the wall for, like, okay, I'm going to set my timer on my phone and I'm going to stare at the wall for 20 minutes, or take like a warm bath, not a hot bath, warm bath for 15 minutes. That just brings down stress hormones, relaxes the body, and you get a reset. Try to, again, walk, anything to just burn off nervous energy. And I think another piece is, and maybe you can relate to this is where you are right now, right? You may be undergoing a divorce, which can take anywhere from, right, like a few months to like 10 years in certain cases, right? You don't know how it's going to be. So you don't know what the end game is always. But you can remind yourself, this is where I am right now. I'm in a very stressful place right now as a single mom. It doesn't mean I'm always going to be in this place. It means that's where I am today. What can I do for myself today, tomorrow, and the next day? So trying to make it all smaller. It's the same thing when you have a to-do list, and moms have a million things to do, and you've got work stuff too, and it's like social engagements, whatever. If you have a to-do list that has 50 things on it, you're just going to feel overwhelmed and be like, I can't do anything. Make it smaller, right? What do I need to do today, tomorrow, and the next day? And then have a long list, but just look at the shorter list. So being more present focused, and saying, this is where I am now. I don't know where I'll be a year from now. So you can't know. None of us know.
Right.
So those are some kind of more cognitive tips that you can do. Watch Caffeine. That's a huge thing about stress and anxiety. Like, obviously, like, I have a half a cup of coffee in the morning because I love coffee and I feel like, I'm tired, like I need something to get going. But it's diminishing returns. If I have like 2 cups of coffee, I'm like, zzz, and then I'm like bouncing off the walls and I can't concentrate. Or I get edgy from the caffeine, right, which is not pleasant. So try to watch caffeine and other substances, alcohol, like, not great for anxiety. You want to have a glass of wine, that's okay, but just really watching that. And too much sugar, not good either. You're going to get a crash and you're going to be tired and not want to do all the things you have to do. The other thing is self-blame. It's not your fault that you're a single mom. Life happens to us all. Circumstances conspire to bring us to different places in life at different times. Self-blame is a waste of time. We all do it at times. It just saps your energy. You can't do anything with it. There's no value, but we all do it. Versus, unfortunately, my husband cheated on me, right, in your case, or we didn't get along anymore, or I'm a single mom, I didn't want to have a partner, whatever it is. Like, we make choices, but it's not all our choice.
Right. Yes. And
You know,
that's just incredibly enlightening, all of the things that you said, because not, I'm thinking about my journey back then, like Dr. Lori, where were you back then? And and that's why I'm so passionate about providing this kind of information for my community, and I mean globally too. And thanks for all the support, everyone. That this podcast is top 10% and just after one season, which means we're hitting more, impacting more lives. That's really the
it's a
point.
huge, Cheryl. You're tapping into a group of people who often, like I said, feel alone, sometimes isolated, and you're providing them with compassion. You're providing them with resources. You're empowering them. There's nothing more important than that. This is a huge audience that you have, and you can never give them too much information and too much support.
I couldn't agree more, Dr. Lori. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I
You're
just
welcome.
Thank you. And I just, before we wrap up, I always like to ask my guests two questions. We're going to get into a little time machine. And so if you could go back in time, what's the one thing you would do differently, if any?
I would have been nicer to myself.
Mm,
I would have been more self-affirming instead of kind of that negative self-talk. You can do better. Why aren't you doing this? Right? You should reach higher. You're going too slow. Like, all of that dialogue, it didn't really help me. I wish I could have been more compassionate. Like, I feel like we all have our strengths and weaknesses. Like, I feel like I'm a pretty good friend and colleague. Like, I wish I could have treated myself the
mm,
way I think I treat other people. But I can't now. I'm doing it now for the most part. I still have my days, so that's probably
right.
what I would do. I'd be kinder to myself.
That's so important, especially right now, too, for my audience. They must have so many different things that they're thinking about. I
Yeah,
remember I was even having gone through body dysmorphia and just being so
hard.
berating to myself. My gosh,
Yes,
wow, it was awful. And it was, just the root is unhappiness in my marriage. And so I thought by being a different person physically, that would change everything, because I was with somebody that was very athletic and, like really
yeah,
was big on the whole physical and all of that. And so I became very fit and skeletal, but mentally, emotionally, I was so depleted. It was awful. So please, everyone, listen to Dr. Lori, what she wants to do, what she would have changed for herself, but doing better now, and like we all can. And so, in that time machine, still, Dr. Lori, what's the one piece of advice you would tell your younger self if it's different?
I would tell myself that you don't have to figure it all out now, because that's part of my personality. Like, how do you solve this? What do I need to do next? Like, what's the answer? And I think that things reveal themselves over time, right? Through life experiences, we learn more about ourselves. We learn more about the people in our lives. We learn more about what we want, about what we don't want. And then if we listen to that and we listen to our feelings, which is hard for some people, myself included, we can then make detours. We can make different choices. We can take different paths, because it's never too late to switch gears. And so I wish I would have kind of let things develop a little bit more naturally. It's good to be goal oriented to a point. If it's causing you distress or it's just such a driving force, then it can be, it doesn't serve you so well. So I think understanding, but I'm saying that with 2020 hindsight now, right? I see at this point in life, I'm still learning about things. I'm still developing perspective. But as if I were younger, it's like, let certain things play out. Our personalities are still forming. We're still figuring everything out. There's a natural process to some of it, and you can't rush it all.
Have patience. Have patience.
Have
And
patience, and whether you're religious or spiritual or not, there's a season for certain things, that we experience. And I do believe that, again, things play out over time.
thank you,
And
Dr.
that's
Lori.
okay. That's okay.
It's okay, and we have to allow it to unfold. Dr. Lori, thank you so much for being with us here again today with, my audience of divorced women and single moms who I know will be really, you guys need to take notes, okay? Because Dr. Lori gave us so much gold and insight and wisdom, and it's truly enlightening to have you here on the show today, Dr. Lori. Thank you. And before we completely wrap up, please let our audience know where we can find you. And if there's anything that you're working on, any programs or whatnot, please let us know.
Sure. First off, Cheryl, thanks so much for having me on your podcast. It was a real pleasure, and I'm glad I got to meet you on video. Anyone can contact me or find me on Instagram at Dr. Lori Davis. It's Lori. I also have a website, drloridavis.com. Feel free to say hello. I love to hear from people. Sometimes people have trouble finding therapists in their area or resources or whatever. Obviously, I don't do therapy online, but if people need help just locating, organizations or clinics or whatever it is, definitely let me know. I'm going to continue to work on my Instagram page, and I'm thinking about maybe writing some articles and maybe a book at some point. But right now, I have a full-time practice, and I teach and supervise, and I have the Instagram thing, which, as you know, is like a second job. So, yeah. Anyway, so but people, anyone reach out, say hello. It would be great to hear from you.
Please connect with Dr. Lori. She is fantastic. Check out her Instagram. Dr. Lori has some awesome tips that she gives on her Instagram page.
Thanks,
So
Cheryl.
please check that out. And all of her information is going to be in the show notes, and I'm also going to be promoting it. So with that being said, thank you so much, Dr. Lori. I look forward to connecting with you again in the future. And
Absolutely, Cheryl. We
to her.
definitely will. All right. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
That's it for this week's episode. I hope that you guys really took to heart what Dr. Lori shared with us today, because it's going to help you live a more empowered life. So please listen and subscribe if you like this episode, and also share so that way we can spread this information to more women, divorced women, and single moms that really, really need this kind of guidance and resource. As always, no matter where you're at in your journey, no matter how old you are, it gets better from here. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so that you can help me hit my goal of positively impacting the lives of millions of divorced women and single moms. Thank you.